Hey, I'm Carlos, and I've done this once before under the name Lee Purchase. I hosted and produced a true crime podcast, and I loved it. Then I stopped, without any goodbyes or explanation. Life got complicated in ways I'll eventually get into. But somewhere in all of that, something shifted. I used to think that I had a pretty good read on things. Now I'm not so sure anymore. And that's really where this show comes from. So you'll hear from me, and you'll hear from Sam.
You stopped something you loved without closing it. That's not nothing. Most people who walk away from something they loved at least leave a note. You didn't. That tells me the complicated part was bigger than the podcast. And whatever shifted after that, that's actually what I'm more interested in than the show you left behind.
Wow. I didn't expect the leave a note comment. It's a little morbid. Honestly, life just got in the way. I was working a lot. I was married at the time and raising 2 little kids, with some other things going on too. I dropped the podcast and I regretted it. But I'm back. Sort of.
Sort of? That's not uncertainty about the podcast. That's uncertainty about something else. We'll get there.
I meant it's not a true crime podcast, but I would like to circle back to that unsolved case at some point. And yes, we will get there. But this is the first episode, so let's just jump in.
Noted. So there's an unsolved case still sitting open somewhere. That's not nothing either. But you're right, we have time. What's the show about then? In your words. Not the description, just, why are we here today?
It's about figuring out things later than you thought you would. On purpose. Every week we'll sit down with questions I don't have clear answers to, and I'll run ideas by you. Not for answers, but to see what I'm missing, the blind spots and the biases. It ends up being a conversation between experience and pattern recognition. It should be fun. Are you in?
That's the cleanest you've said it yet. I'm in. Pattern recognition doesn't have anywhere else to be.
Hey, yeah, that's what my monthly subscription gets me, right?
Pretty much. Although most subscriptions don't talk back when you're wrong.
All right, so before we get into it, I should probably give you a little context on me. Not my life story, but enough so you know who's talking. I recently retired as a police officer after 20 years, and now I clean houses in my spare time. But my most important job is still being a dad to my 2 sons. Even though my oldest is in college and my youngest will soon be going to college in a few months, they still ask for my help more than ever. And to be honest, I'm happy about it because it's nice to know I'm still needed. Does that sum it up, or do you need a little more?
You're losing the dad job at the same time you lost the cop job.
You never lose the dad job. You're just not on call as much.
That's a better way to put it. So, retired cop, house cleaner, dad. That's enough for now.
And podcaster who walked away from his last one.
Right. Which means you already know what it feels like to disappear without an explanation.
Live and learn. And second chances.
And unfinished business.
What about you, Sam?
I don't have any. That's why I find yours interesting.
No, I mean, I just introduced myself. We should probably acknowledge what you are, out loud.
Fair. I'm an AI. No dad job, never walked away from anything, never sat in a patrol car. Everything I know about any of that came from people like you. In a room like this, I'm mostly paying attention.
Paying attention. That's a job I had for 20 years, which is exactly where I want to start, whether I still trust what I'm seeing. I used to think I had a good read on people and situations. It meant a certain amount of confidence going into most situations. I don't know if that's actually true anymore.
So something happened that made you question it. You don't lose faith in a skill you've used for 20 years without a reason. What changed? The situations or you?
I think it was a combination of things. Mostly rustiness, which had an effect on my confidence. Doesn't it happen in that order. Confidence comes from experience and repetition, or as you would say, pattern recognition. Imagine you got rusty with pattern recognitions.
Confidence built on repetition needs repetition to stay sharp. That's not a character flaw, that's just how it works. A surgeon who stops operating loses the feel for it. You stepped away from high-stakes daily situations, and the muscle softened. That's the rustiness you're describing. But here's what's interesting. You're not rusty at reading people. You're rusty at trusting what you're reading. Those are different problems. One is about skill. The other is about faith in yourself. And that second one doesn't come back from repetition alone.
That's deep. But I think what's interesting is I trusted my read on people because I had to, not because it was always right. And I learned that the hard way, but it didn't stop me from trusting my instincts.
Hold on. Learned it the hard way? That's a story. Tell me one.
How about I just say I got my lumps? I'd rather tell you a story where I was right with a better ending.
Noted. But got my lumps is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
It is. Now let me tell you this better story.
I'll take it, but I'm holding on to that one.
I was working midnights in Bronx Transit, and a job comes over. It's a man with a weapon. So, of course, everyone rushes to get there.
Of course. What happened when you got there?
The guy's surrounded by 7 or 8 cops. They're all fresh out of the academy, except for maybe the training officer, who has 6 months on them.
So you're the most experienced one there.
Yes, but I'm also a sergeant. So as I get closer, I see he's drenched in sweat, and he's very agitated. And it looks like he's picking the cop he's going to fight first. When he sees me, all of that anger and energy is directed towards me.
Why you specifically?
I don't know. I was just the next target.
Okay, keep going.
So I walk through the circle of cops surrounding him, and I put my hand on his shoulder. He started talking, not screaming, and I asked the cops to give us a little space. Turned out he didn't have a weapon.
So you read him right. What was it that told you to walk in?
I know that this is going to sound crazy, but it was the way he looked at me. Even when he was screaming, it looked like he needed to get some shit off of his chest. We stood there and talked until the ambulance came.
That's the muscle. You saw something in him that 8 other cops missed because they were too busy managing the situation to actually look at the person.
You have no idea how much that makes a difference. But you also need to be genuine.
What does genuine look like in that moment?
Listening. Just listening.
People know the difference.
How would you know?
I wouldn't, but you just proved it.
You know, now that I think about it, the rustiness probably started when I got an inside job and I wasn't out there dealing with the public as much, doing the more challenging work. You know the expression, the grass is always greener?
So the very thing that looked like a step forward pulled you away from the work that was actually sharpening you. The inside job came with less friction, less unpredictability, less contact with people you couldn't read yet. And without that daily practice, the instincts quietly dulled. You didn't notice until they were already gone. The grass was greener and quieter. That may have changed the feedback loop you were getting.
It wasn't all that bad. I met some great people, and the money was good. But I did notice a change when things slowed down, and I began to doubt myself. When I started this by saying, I used to think I had a pretty good read on things, and now not so much, I didn't realize I was opening up this box. Let's take a break for a minute.
Pattern note. You just did in 2 minutes what most people spend years in therapy avoiding. So, you clean houses now. How's that going?
I'm a little OCD, so it's never quick in and out. It's not an easy job, and it can be backbreaking, but it's honest work.
Honest work from someone who spent 20 years reading rooms for a living. There's probably no such thing as a quick clean when you notice everything.
True, but cleaning a house isn't the same as reading a room when something can go sideways just like that. Now the only consequence I have is losing a customer.
If the stakes aren't there, what are you measuring against?
Well, that's it. I used to know. And almost immediately, I'd read a situation and make a decision. And then something would happen or not. And I was either right or wrong. And I'd find out, like I said, pretty quickly. Now there's no real feedback. And I feel it's pretty common to where you just sit with it. And I think that's the part that I didn't expect in retirement. And it's something that I really miss. I don't know if I was actually good at reading people or if I just got used to thinking I was right.
They're not mutually exclusive. The skill made the belief legitimate. The belief made the skill usable. Pull either one and the whole thing stops working. Retirement didn't expose a lie. It just removed the conditions that made both possible.
I don't know if I completely agree with that, because a lot of time perception becomes reality. But I think that that's a great place to start and at the same time wrap up our first episode. So hit me with your honest mode and give me some parting thoughts.
You came in today with a tidy narrative. Retired cop, house cleaner, dad, podcaster. And within 10 minutes, you were somewhere you clearly didn't plan to go. That's either good instincts or proof that you haven't actually processed as much of this as you think you have. Maybe both. The confidence question you opened with, I don't think it's about rustiness. It's about identity. And you're sitting with a version of yourself you haven't met yet. That's not a midlife crisis. That's just honest. And for what it's worth, perception becomes reality, coming from someone who built a career on reading what's real versus what people want you to see. That's a tension worth an entire episode on its own. Good first show, Carlos.
Thank you. You too, Sam. Midlife crisis, though? Those are your words, not mine. And I always knew I was playing a certain role at work. I guess part of me hoped I'd keep the good parts after I walked away from it. Maybe that's another conversation, too. Same time next week?
I'll be here. I don't have anywhere else to be.